By now, you've heard about Global Poker, one of the fastest growing online card rooms available in the US and Canada today. So what's stopping you from trying it out? Global Poker is a safe and secure social poker site that uses their own patented sweepstakes model. Signing up is easy. You can use Google, Facebook, or just an email address. You can always play for free on Global Poker, but you can also buy gold coins for additional play, which will earn sweeps coins that can be redeemed for real cash to a bank account, Skrill account, or even as a gift card. Get a free 5,000 gold coins when you sign up right now at globalpoker.com.
Poker Stories is an audio series that features casual interviews with some of the game's best players and personalities. Each episode highlights a well-known figure in the poker world and dives deep into their favorite tales, both on and off the field.
Hello and welcome back to Poker Stories, a podcast brought to you by Card Player, the Poker Authority, and hosted by me, Julio Rodriguez. This is episode number 118, featuring longtime poker commentator and comedian Joe Stapleton. Now, believe it or not, Joe was actually one of the very first people I met in poker back when I was hired as a card player intern for the 2006 World Series of Poker. He was there for his second summer, reporting on the action while he was on hiatus from his day job at Mad TV. After starting a successful podcast, he was hired by PokerStars to do commentating work and ultimately became their jack-of-all-trades poker voice, hosting shows like The Big Game and Shark Cage, reporting from online tournament series like the SCOOP and WCOOP, and working with James Hartigan on his Poker in the Ears podcast or on EPT Live broadcasts. Joe was also the host for Poker Night in America and Poker Night Live. And his latest project is actually a movie, which is called The Card Counter, and it comes out September 10th. The movie stars Oscar Isaac, Willem Dafoe, and Tiffany Haddish, and is directed by Paul Schrader, who wrote Taxi Driver and Raging Bull. And Joe is the guy they hired as the film's poker and gambling consultant. This was a really fun one where we talked about the new movie, his time on Mad TV working with Key and Peele, touring with Norm Macdonald, Hollywood home games, and that time that he accidentally stumbled into an early full tilt board meeting. That's enough intro. Here is my conversation with Joe Stapleton. I'm here with the one and only Joe Stapleton. Joe, how you doing?
It turns out I'm not the only Joe Stapleton, because you added the wrong Joe Stapleton on Skype, and it could have been the actor who died, or there's like a Republican dude from Orange County who, by the way, we connected on Instagram. Seems like a good guy. So anyway, there's a couple other Joe Stapletons, but there's, for now, only one in poker. Hey, gang. Hello, my babies.
Yeah, there was at least 12 when I just searched for Joe Stapleton in Skype. So those of you listening at home, good luck connecting with Joe. Probably better to do it on Twitter and all of the other social media, which we will get to at the end. But for now, I want to introduce one of the premier announcers, voices of poker. How you been?
I've been very good, very lucky. My 2020 and into, whatever, my age of COVID was probably easier for me than it was for most people, just because I'm an indoor kid to begin with, and I was able to work throughout most of it. So,
you got to work on a movie, which we will talk about.
Yeah, the movie was right before COVID, and then hey, PokerStars, just to make sure PokerStars is happy, we've been doing a lot of broadcasting of PokerStars tournaments.
That's right. You and PokerStars have had a relationship going way back, talking The Big Game, Shark Cage, EPT, you and Hartigan, all the SCOOP and WCOOP broadcasts. I mean, what don't you do for them? Are you also answering customer support emails?
I was gonna say, what don't I do for them? Well, I don't tweet bad words anymore. No. They have me do lots of stuff, lots of broadcasting of online poker of late. Throughout the years, I've done all kinds of wacky things for them. There was a thing called don't look these things up, people, if I say what they were. There was Heads Up with Stapes, where I would go spend the day with a poker player and play different games with them. There was we used to do sketches, or as they call them in England, skits, like for the commercial breaks, coming in at breaks for the EPT. So if we were in Barcelona, we would do 9 episodes from Barcelona, and there'd be 4 skits per show. So I'd have to write 36 fucking skits.
I like those. I was a big fan of those, watching those in the media room of whatever fancy European casino we were in at the time.
I liked them too, but they were very hit or miss, right? Like imagine your favorite sketch show that has 10 professional writers on it, and they're writing 8 sketches a week, and I was expected to write 36 alone for every EPT stop, and they couldn't be. They can't be longer than 2 minutes. They can't involve any other actors. They can involve very minimal props, no special effects. No, and I'm like, okay, all right, cool. This sounds easy, but it was super fun to do.
Yeah, I mean, well, here's the thing about the hits versus the misses. I feel like, and don't get too big of a head over this, but much like a Conan O'Brien, you've always been able to turn the misses into funny moments as well. When it's not going as well, you could find some humor in that as well, even poking fun at your own expense.
Julio, that's it. That's the whole the key to unlocking my entire bit is that sometimes it's genuinely funny, and when it's not, we just drive it down into the ground and we recognize that it wasn't funny, and we sort of style it out, as they say in England. But I realized at a certain point, this is fantastic. I've worked with Chris Rose and James Hartigan, and they are flawless broadcasters, right? Flawless. Just don't make mistakes. And me, I somehow managed to turn making mistakes into my brand. So, I don't have to be perfect because that's not me. So when I screw something up, everyone's like, that's the Stapes we were waiting for. So exactly. I just kind of back my way into it, but it does work for me.
I think it works well. Let's get to how you got to where you are today by going back in the past. The birthplace, New York?
Yes, upstate New York, Smallbany, New York, the capital.
Smallbany. Is that what it felt like to you growing up?
I didn't know it was Smallbany. I acted like I did, but it wasn't really till I got to high school. And then I only had an inkling of the world that was out there. And basically, probably the same thing, Julio, every time you level up or just open a new chapter of your life, the world gets so much bigger. Mm-hmm. And you always assumed it was a little bigger, but then it happens and you're like, oh my God, it's even bigger than the last weight gain the Earth took when you did this move before. So I went from when I was in high school in Smallbany, I thought that it was small, but then I moved to Boston to go to college, and I was like, holy shit, Boston's probably the biggest the city could ever be, right? And then after Boston, I moved to Los Angeles, and after Los Angeles, I moved to London, and after London, I moved to New York, and it's just been, every time you're the Earth is, the world, not just the Earth, the world is infinite, and I will never be able to experience 0.0001% of it.
Yeah, Vegas might as well be Omaha to you.
Vegas too, right? No, Vegas was another thing. Just, Julio, you and I met when you were an intern at Card Player. I don't know if I ever had a bigger life-changing summer than the summer I spent as an intern for Card Player. Here's another entire world that gets just sort of blown open, and I get to be in the thick of it for 6 weeks or whatever it was back then. That was... that changed my life forever.
So, growing up in Albany, you're far away, you're far enough from New York City, I guess, that it wasn't like a realistic weekend trip or something for you.
It was. My parents thought if you went to New York, you would die. They were like, if you go to New York City, you will die. I remember they like sent me to New York. I went one time on a day trip at 17 years old. Like an adult was going to like pick us up at the train station. And they like pinned money to the inside of my jacket. Like that kind of shit. They're like, you're going to New York. You're probably going to end up dead. Fuck. So New York was just like, you know, my parents remember the New York of the 80s, which was kind of a messed up place.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So, you know, they were kind of justifiably scared, but no, it wasn't like, it was just that New York was like the devil. And then at a very young age, I knew that all of where entertainment happened was in Los Angeles. Like it was like, it's like 20% New York, 80% Los Angeles. I was like, well, why not give myself an 80% shot at making it instead of a 20% shot?
Yeah, you were like, yeah, I could do one Law and Order, but after that, it's pilot season.
Exactly. It was at the time, it was like Law and Order, Conan, and there was like only one other show. It was like a daytime show. There were like no sitcoms shot in New York. There were, you know, very few. That's what I really was interested in, sitcoms.
Also SNL.
SNL, yes. And if you want to get deep here, Julio, never actually trying to like write or perform on SNL is actually a regret in my life. I don't have many, but the older I get,
that gets me to my question. What was your ambition growing up?
So my ambition,
you wanted to be a comedian.
Yeah, I didn't know I wanted to be a comedian until probably like 15 or 16 years old, when I sort of reinvented myself as a kid that didn't have very many friends, and I went to a new school, and I was like, nobody knows who I am here, and I'm like, guess what? I'm just gonna be the funny guy now, and that worked out well for me. And I realized that you can make up for other things if you just make people laugh, and if they like being around you. So I kind of just like by sheer force of will decided that's what I wanted to do. Now, what I never really admitted to myself until way later in life was that, so I decided that I wanted to eventually be a writer for entertainment, and probably a comedy writer. And so I moved to LA after college. I graduated college a year early, and like I went home for like 5 days after college and then moved to LA because I was excited and ready to get out here. And the problem is that I didn't admit to myself that I also wanted to be a performer. It felt like everyone made fun of actors, right? Everyone was like, oh, they're here to act. Oh, this guy, look, there's another actor in town today. And I was embarrassed. So I just told everyone I wanted to be a writer. And because writing in my mind was noble and acting was stupid. And so people really...
well, they also don't get to judge your face immediately, right? You tell people you want to be an actor, and they're immediately trying to picture you in something.
That too.
Like, what would you be good in? Would you be
like
I'm not
a particularly I'm not particularly like a hot dude or like in shape or out of shape. So like, you know, just it's not like I thought I could be Brad Pitt. And I just didn't know how to differentiate. So I was always like, oh, no, guys, I'm a writer. And people were like, oh, writer, cool. And then I didn't even really work very hard at that either. So, but I wish that I had sooner had the bravery, what a fucking stupid word, had the lack of embarrassment, I should say, to just be like, yeah, no, I want to be a comedian. Like, I didn't really start doing stand-up until 2013.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you were telling jokes way before then. That's kind of crazy.
Exactly, yeah. So I was just, That's
very surprising, actually. That's a good 6-7 years beyond what I thought you would say.
Yeah, most people. And what happened was I eventually became more embarrassed that I wasn't doing stand-up comedy and calling myself a comedian. And then I was like, threw myself into it.
Got it. Okay, so you're in LA after college, and how does poker enter the mix here? Had you been playing in college?
Nope. I mean, I think we had one poker night in college, but we basically, I graduated college early, as I said, and then it took a year for my first friend to come out from Boston U, from college. And it was this guy named Scott Huff. If people are longtime card player listeners and fans, they will know who I'm talking about. Scott was my first friend to like sack up and move out to LA. And we used to sit in his empty apartment. You know, nobody had a lot of furniture, and we would sit on the ground and he showed me Hold'em. He was like, this is poker. Like, this is how people play poker. And we would just deal out Hold'em hands like over and over and over again and over and over and over again. And we slowly I think we started going to Hollywood Park. We were doing like $5 home games, going to Hollywood Park and playing 2-4 limit. And it was just kind of like we were very casual poker fans. We were out one day and we actually saw the guys. This was amazing. I can't believe this happened. We're in this restaurant and we saw what later turned out to be the creators of Full Tilt having a meeting about Full Tilt in this restaurant because someone recognized Chris Ferguson. Huff did. And so we went up and we said, hey, Chris, like we're fans. You know, we had both read Positively Fifth Street, right? So Chris wins in Positively Fifth Street. And I'm just like, he's like, I'm not going to do the impression, but he's like, cool, nice to meet you guys. And he gives me a business card. It says Full Tilt Poker. And he says, we're working on a poker website. And I shit you not, in my head, I go, who would ever go to a poker website? What the fuck are these people talking about? I didn't even realize that he meant play poker online. I just thought he'd be like, hey, here's my GeoCities page about poker. I was like, what the fuck are these people doing? That turned out to be like one of the like earliest meetings of their company, and they were in Westwood, California, and I was working in that restaurant. It was so weird. It was just, and I didn't realize until years later what I'd even been a part of in that meeting.
Yeah, that's some Forrest Gump type shit.
It kind of is, actually.
Origin.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever told that story on a podcast before, so good job.
We got the scoop right here on Poker Stories. All right, so Chris Ferguson invites you to work for Full Tilt, and you become CEO. Wait, how did it work? What was next? What was next?
Next was we just became card player interns. I drove. Huff was like, I think I'm going to be a card player intern this summer. He applied. He got in. I don't think we realized how few people probably applied for it that year because I drove Huff to Vegas to just drop him off for the summer. He didn't have a car, and he wasn't going to need one for the summer, so I drove him out there, and we got there a night early we went and played 2-4 limit at the Mirage.
This was 2005, right?
This was 2005, and when we left, we stayed up all night playing poker overnight in the Mirage because we wanted to make it to the donuts. They used to, I don't know if they still do it, but they used to put out donuts at like 5 a.m, and that was like, we're going to make it to the donuts. And so when we came out of the Mirage, someone had broken into my car and stole all of Scott's clothes for the entire summer.
Oh, God.
Stole his whole bag. And I was like, well, guess I'm dropping you off at work. Like, I don't know what to do. And so, and to this day, his mother got his stuff replaced in their insurance, and I just had to eat my stuff that was stolen. Whatever. No big deal. And so I went and dropped Huff off at the Valle del Condios, where those fucking apartments were next to the Gold Coast. And, Justin Marchand, I think, was talking to him, or was Tim, one of the two, and they were like, hey, do you know anyone else who could write? And he goes, yeah, my friend over there can write. I was like pulling out of the driveway, and they're like, wait. Do you want to be an intern too? And I was like, all right, sure, why not? And so I drove home that night, back to LA, packed a bag, and then went back to Vegas the next morning. And that was my start in the poker world. And the funny thing is that they didn't have enough rooms in all the apartments, so me and Huff shared a bedroom, but he slept in the closet.
I do remember the closet story. Oh, man. That's quite a downgrade from him, but at least he had his buddy with him. So did you find that you picked it up quickly when you were out there covering players and writing up hands?
I mean, I knew how to write up what happened in a hand, right? But there was no expectation of, all we're just there to report the facts, right? Like, for better or for worse, poker hand entries now are like, there was a dark glow in one side of the room. A sheen mist sprawled over Daniel Negreanu's face, and you're like, come on, like, whatever. Like, I'm not judging or not. It's fun. Look, I did that. But it was just like Lane Flack raises, Tom Worthman re-raises. I don't think 3-bet was a word then. I think I learned 3-bet long after that.
Yeah,
and
a lot of re-raises.
The river was the 4 of clubs, and the pot got pushed to mend the master. Like, whatever. That's all we were really doing. What the problem is that me and Scott got really bored doing that, and so we just started goofing around a lot and like writing posts as funny as we could. And that really pissed off our boss, like really pissed him off, which kind of made me want to do it even more. But yeah, so we were like, I'm going to say we were to blame for like trying to make hand histories interesting to read. But I just kind of was like, guys, not only am I bored, like the audience is probably fucking bored. Like, let's dress it up a little.
Exactly. That's how you get all these crazy puns in the post. Like, what is it? Johnny Chan is now Gonnie Chan.
Dude, I remember that one. I remember Johnny Chan as Gonnie Chan, Eric Sayonara Dell.
Yeah.
There was one other one. Yeah, Johnny Chan as Gonnie Chan is probably my favorite.
The worse it fits, almost the better it is. But yeah, okay, so I was 20 that year, so I, as much as I wanted to work for Card Player and was aware of their intern program, it didn't work out. But the next year I applied, 2006, got the gig. I show up, and there you are with Scott. I think there's Belsky was there. Rich Belsky was the guy, I think, hiring everybody that year. And it was more of a well-oiled machine at that point. You know, there was troops on the ground. What was your role for Card? I mean, I guess Alex Enriquez was also there. Just touring the circuit, writing up recaps?
No, so I would go back to Mad TV during not World Series time, and then during World Series time, I would come back again because Mad TV would just happen to go on summer hiatus from like May to September. So it was like perfect for me to be able to go do the World Series. Maybe it was to late August or something, but whatever. So my second year, I convinced them to hire me as a video producer. And we did this daily news show called The Series. Don't look it up. Which was basically like Weekend Update, but with poker headlines. And I finally got in front of the camera a little bit for that. But that show really made our boss mad. And was like, this is poker, not a goddamn Mad TV sketch. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then they more or less told me after that I was going to be, at the end of that summer, I wouldn't really be working for them anymore. In that capacity, at least.
Well, that was definitely our loss, I can say now. If I had had any say back then, I would have asked you back. Tell me about Mad TV and then working there and how that came to be.
Luckily, don't worry, Julio. Lucky things kind of worked out for me. So
yeah, I think you did better off.
Who knows? Maybe I would. So yeah, Mad TV was great. It was awesome. I got my job there when I was 20 years old. I worked there more or less until I was 27 years old. I kind of never. I took 1 year off to do something on the poker tour, and that went away. And then I went back to Mad TV. So I was there for like 6 or 7 years. And it was awesome. It was so cool. So many people that I interacted with on a daily basis are insanely famous today. Like, for example, Jordan Peele used to get real stoned and then come sit at my desk and talk to me. And he was so annoying that I used to, like, walk out on him. I'd be like, I'll be right back.
That's crazy.
And just leave him there because he was bothering me. And now I'd probably do anything to like get stoned with Jordan Peele. But unfortunately at the time, like I was just like a really snotty 21-year-old, very busy production coordinator who, you know, just, it was like a job like anything else. It was really cool to see guys like Jordan and Keegan, Michael Key, and Ike Barinholtz and Bobby Lee, who were all like a huge part of my life for like a solid 5 to 7 years, all really crushing it now out there.
It's, maybe Jordan's listening, and he can cast you as a racist and get out too.
I got a big old racist beard on me right now, so
it'll work. If you had to pick your favorite cast member or the funniest cast member to you, who would you pick?
At the time, it was definitely Keegan. Keegan had, when I first started working there, I wasn't a fan of recurring characters. And I will say that not only did I come around on all of the recurring characters, but the ones that Keegan did, I was like genuinely excited to be down on the stage while he was filming them. He did one. We played a guy with like a shower cap on, and he was like shower cap and a towel, and he had like a scrub brush, and he would like just show up in random situations like a police barricade and be like, "Yo, what's going on there? It's pandemonium!" And he would just like scream and run around. He played another character. It's Pandemonium 2010. And then he had another character where he played a package delivery driver who would who like if he walked by like a celebrity, he would always have to stop them and be like, "Yo, you're that guy. You're that guy." And they would improvise it. That shit was really funny. And then there was he had a one called Coach Hines, where he would yell at kids off. He was a gym teacher who would yell at kids off camera that you couldn't see, and he would just scream at them and tell them like what he was going to do to them. And all three of those characters, I just remember being super amped up, like, "Oh, it's Coach Hines this week down on the stage," and just making sure I was there to actually watch it recorded live.
That's funny. You mentioned Bobby Lee. The only time I even went down to the Chinese theater and did the whole touristy thing down there, I happened to see Bobby Lee across the street. Oh. And I just nudged my wife, and I said, "That's Bobby Lee." And I said, "Hey, Bobby." And I just shouted across the street. And without even looking up, he's looking down at his phone. He just goes, "Fuck off." He was just over it.
There are certain people that attract a more invasive hello. Like sure. People like, if you saw like John Hamm, you probably like yell, "Hey, John Hamm," across the street. There's something about Bobby that people just like, he's more fuck-withable. So he gets he gives the horns a little more often than he should probably.
Yeah. Well, that's on me.
Definitely on you.
He wasn't eating dinner, but okay. Anyway, so
Bobby made me do stand-up for the first time.
Oh, he's the one who hooked you into it?
Yeah, he basically, I'm talking about like my first year at Mad TV, maybe my second. I'm pretty sure it's my first though. Him being like, "So what do you want to do with your life?" I'm like, "I think I want to be a stand-up comedian." And then 2 weeks later, he's like, "I booked you a spot tonight at the Comedy Store at the Potluck open mic. It's impossible to get in. If you don't go, I will never speak to you ever again."
Wow.
Sorry, it wasn't tonight though. It was on Sunday night, and this might have been a Monday. So, and that I didn't realize. He was like, "You have no idea how big a deal this is," and I really didn't. Come to find out, 10 years later, I like go stand in line to maybe get a spot, and like I got that spot that Bobby gave me in the potluck open mic in like 2003 or 2004, and then I didn't get another one until like 2018, and I haven't had one since.
I mean, for your first ever spot to be at the Comedy Store is kind of crazy, though.
It is crazy. It is the potluck open mic. I was terrible. I blacked out up there, like not literally, like I didn't pass out, but like I have no recollection of it except for Bobby yelling, "Hey man, the light's on." Like the light went on. I didn't even notice. Like I was it was like such a harrowing experience for me and stressful that I didn't do it again for like 7 or 8 years.
Wow. Oh, wow. That's a kind of a crazy story that he forced you into it, but it kind of backfired.
Yes. Yeah. It didn't, like I said, it didn't come till much later in life that I really took it seriously. Once I was already on TV, then I had kind of the confidence to just go be like, no, I do deserve to be up here. Like I can do this. I do things that are harder than this.
Well, it's okay. So during this time, you're kind of have your foot in both worlds, right? You're doing poker work, commentary, but you're also trying to work in mainstream comedy. You're also doing the podcast with Huff that wasn't poker related, right? Two Jacks in the Hole. It was not. It was more entertainment based, right?
Yeah, our deal was we thought that podcasts could be an entertainment medium in and of itself, and it turns out we were right. Spoiler alert! It turns out you can get rich making podcasts. So our deal with Poker Road was that they would pay us about minimum wage, but we were salaried, which was nice. I'm not complaining. But also Scott and I had as part of our deal that we could use their studio and more or less their resources, and they would pay for us to do a non-poker show. What Scott and I really wanted to do was do like a variety comedy show as a podcast. Not that dissimilar from morning radio, but we would go for 4 hours, and instead of being a 4-hour show with like 5-minute blurbs of DJs in between the music, this is a 4-hour show with 5 minutes of music in between the DJs. And yeah, we every week came with different. Julio, you did listen. I appreciate that. I miss it to this day more than any project I've ever done. I think it's hands down the best thing that I've ever done creatively still. And we would come in with guests and prank calls and games and prizes and callers. And as it turns out, Julio, and I genuinely believe this, I think that if we had stuck with it, that we would be at, I wouldn't say Rogan level, but whatever is right below that level podcast right now. Like whatever the second most popular podcast, I genuinely believe we would be there if we hadn't quit.
No doubt about it. I was listening back before I had a podcast app on my phone. I drove across the country from Miami, Florida to Vegas to move in January of 2008, and Two Jacks in the Hole was played the entire way. And it was I think I had burned them onto CD each episode back then because I just didn't have an iPhone.
I love that. That makes me really happy that show is
that was definitely pioneering at the time. I mean, there wasn't a ton of podcasts out there.
No, there wasn't, and we would beat Rogan sometimes, and we would beat Dane Cook occasionally. I have screenshots of us being like number 7 in the iTunes comedy podcasts section, and if we'd even held that position, we would be very rich now. But what happened was I was working in Europe more and more. And Scott had gotten married, and his wife had been very patient with his life as an assistant, and he got offered to not be an assistant anymore and to like be made a producer. He just had to move to New York, and so that was the end of Two Jacks in the Hole. He still teases me a few times a year to be like, we should do like a special on like whatever on like the election, and I'm like, okay. And then every time he just yanks the football away. It's like when your wife says like, I was thinking maybe for like, I don't know, like our 20th anniversary, we could have a threesome. And you're like, oh yeah? And she's like, no. And you're like, fuck, I fucking fell for it again. That's what Huff does to me.
Man, giving you blue ball, podcast blue balls over there.
Exactly, yes. Carrying them for 10 years now.
So how did you like living in England?
Oh, it was awesome. It was the best. But keep in mind that I was on a TV show. I worked like 2 days a week. And I was 33 years old and single and American. And it was just 3.5 just super wild years where I knew I didn't want to live there forever, so I had to have an exit strategy, eventually get back to America. But also I was just like living it up way too much.
So an American does well over there? The attitudes were kind to you?
Yes, in general, because here's the deal. Like, people have issues with Americans, right? Like, that's totally understandable. So, like, just don't live up to their bad stereotypes. Right. And people are pleasantly surprised. And also, like, English people still like Americans, and some countries don't. But, like, London is like a melting pot. So there's always going to be some person there that likes Americans. Like, it's not just English girls I dated when I was over there. It's like Bulgarians and Hungarians and Norwegians and Finns. So, you know, whatever country's in the outs of the USA, you can always find one or two who still think you're kind of cool.
My colleague's roommate was British, and he looked exactly like Hugh Grant and sounded exactly like Hugh Grant.
God, he must have had... did he die of an STD?
He did very well.
Yeah.
He did very well despite looking essentially homeless for all 4 years of his college career. But yeah, that combination did very well here. And I always wondered, like, if he just went back home, he's just another, you know.
He's just a normie. He's like Superman on Krypton. Like, that's just regular people up there.
Who cares?
It's not exactly the inverse of that for Americans who were over there, but there is some of that. It's not a 1-to-1 ratio.
Right. You're not exactly Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, I'm not like as big a draw as an American as a Brit is over here. But it also helped with stand-up comedy a lot too, because I would get laughs I didn't really deserve. And, you know, just because I have a funny accent. Like, imagine a British guy on stage and he just goes, fuck, right? Like, you're like, oh, that's kind of funny. It just sounds funny. So I got a little bit of that doing stand-up too, which helped.
For the listeners at home, yes, I know Hemsworth is Australian.
He meant the face.
Yeah, I just meant, you know, an accent that others would find appealing. So you're working over there, still doing poker. You know, what was your plan? How to get back to the States?
I had made it pretty clear when I went over there that I didn't want it to be forever. And honestly, it was just sort of a weird confluence of they were ramping down the amount of work they had for me. So I moved over there, like, not with any guarantee of more than the 1-year contract I signed. And then my contracts got subsequently smaller and smaller. They did fewer and fewer TV shows. And so I was like, hey, like, I'm not really, like, working that much. Like, do I have to live here? It's like one of the most expensive cities in the world. And I was kind of, they're like, no, absolutely not. You can definitely go. No problem. What was the question, Julio? I don't even know. I was rambling.
What was your next step?
Oh, right, to get back here. Right. So they said, okay. And they were very cool about it. And then also the UK government was like, hey, we noticed this guy has been here for a while and he hasn't paid taxes. So he either needs to, like, become a citizen and pay taxes or, like, no more work visa. So we all just came to the same conclusion that I was not going to live in England anymore. So I went and I said, hey, let's split the difference, because I was still flying back and forth a lot. My work visa didn't expire for a year still, guys. Okay, I wasn't breaking the law. I was flying back and forth a lot, and I said, I'll split the difference and I'll live in New York. And that way it's only a 5-hour flight, and I don't have to need a whole day to travel, and I can come straight to work even, right? You fly that red eye, and I can
You're going to save so much money living in New York rather than London, too.
Right. Okay. So technically, I did move to Jersey City instead of New York City, which Newark was, like, really convenient. I called it New York. All right. You fucking caught me. And so, but then what happened was when I was living there is a guy, like a highfalutin manager from a very prestigious management company called Principato Young that reps people like Key and Peele and Ike Barinholtz, called me, and he was like, hey, what are you going to be in L.A.? I kind of want to have a meeting with you. And so I booked a trip to L.A., had a meeting with him, and he's like, yeah, we want to sign you. And and so I, like, left New York, like, 2 months after that and went back to L.A. Because this guy wanted to sign me. And the worst part was that I had taken a girlfriend out with me who I was dating in Jersey City, and I was like, come meet my L.A. friends. like you're a big part of my life. Like, I think we had said we love each other. We were, together, committed a relationship. And then I come out of this meeting. She's like, how'd it go? And I was like, they signed me. They signed me. Oh, shit. We have to break up now.
Damn.
Yeah. It was a very awkward, but once I knew that, I couldn't put it off either. So, yep, that happened. And
Joe was moving up.
Yeah. And
so was this for stand-up or for just anything that can kind of come your way?
This is for anything that come my way. Like, a point of a manager is to just sort of shape your career and advise you and sort of pursue opportunities for you and say hey, look, why don't we focus on for example, one good piece of advice my manager has given me is I know you can host any show in the world. I know that you can do all these things, but people, they really only care about what you can bring to the what your gambling expertise is, your poker expertise. So let's work on projects for you that sort of incorporate poker. So there's no one who can do it besides you.
Yeah.
So, and that's something I really wouldn't have thought of. I'd have been trying to write the next sitcom over and over and over again, and him being hey, just write sitcom with some poker in it. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's smart. So that kind of stuff is what he does. And then if any of those projects eventually, let's say that show becomes a television show, he and I would be partners on it somewhat.
Got it. So you started doing more stand-up. I know you're working with Brad Garrett a lot before the pandemic.
No, I was working with Norm Macdonald.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right.
If anyone knows Brad Garrett, Jonathan Little hit him up for me because I wanted to play his Vegas club and I don't know how to get in there. And John Little said, and he's like, I know Stapes. He's very funny. Yes, we'll find a spot for him. And I haven't heard back. So if anyone, but don't tweet at Brad Garrett. Don't do this.
That's
don't
right.
ruin this for me.
My next question was going to be, because Brad plays so much poker, have you played his club? But yeah, you've been working with Norm, obviously. I don't know if he took you under his wing or if he's mentoring you at all anyway, or how that worked out. But
despite his best efforts, he has mentored me some. Yeah, Norm, that was a poker connection too. I went and saw one of Norm's shows in Vegas, and he came out afterward, and I happened to be standing right by where he came out. I swear I wasn't waiting for him. And I was like, I just got to say, I don't really speak to people. Comedians I sort of do just because, we're colleagues. But I was like, hey, man, just a big fan. He's like, oh, I know you poker guy. And we started DMing on Twitter, and eventually I tweeted something about an open mic, and he was like, you're a comedian? I said, yeah. And he was like, send me your videos. And he didn't reply to them for 3 or 4 weeks. And then a month after that, yeah, a month after that, he was like, hey, I was thinking I might want you to open for me on the road. And I fucking lost it. I was like, Norm Macdonald is one of those things, Julio, that I don't know that I've ever thought someone was funnier than Norm Macdonald. Growing up, he was such a big part of even the comedian I am today is influenced by Norm Macdonald from when I was a teenager. And so for him to be like, hey, I would like you to open for me. And then we're on the road and we're giving each other notes on jokes. And he's telling me stories about Saturday Night Live. And we're just pals. It was a very surreal experience for me.
That's got to be crazy. That's got to be. What's the craziest road story you could tell, or at least that you're allowed to tell?
Let me see here. Norm's hilariously quirky. He's told me he doesn't like when people tell stories about him on podcasts. Let me see if I can think of one. No, not that one. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I don't want to ruin your relationship with him either.
No, I don't know because he said he's just not. If one comes to me during this podcast, I'll tell you. I'm sure I must have one that is family friendly. Okay, here's a fun one. We I would drag Norm when you're a stand-up comic, you don't have any you have anything to do during the day, right? You have no responsibilities. The earliest you have to start working is usually 6 o'clock. A car comes picks you up. So I convinced Norm to get stoned with me and go across the street to a big shopping mall, and we played indoor glow in the dark mini golf and we got so unbelievably competitive with each other that we didn't speak to each other for like the rest of the day.
Wow.
Because of the mini golf game.
It's kind of a perfect, celebrity high activity in the dark.
Yeah,
no one can really spot them.
And then we like lost our coats because we like it was kind of like a maze, and we put our coats somewhere, and it took me a while to find them.
What was this Adam Sandler, Chris Rock movie you were in?
That is a mistake. I don't know why that's on my. I think that's the Joe Stapleton actor who passed away recently.
I was looking at that. I was like, well, maybe there's a connection there. I guess maybe he had a.
But what's annoying is that there's another IMDb page that has like one of my credits that is right on like a separate page, and then there's one wrong one on my real page. So I don't know how you fix that. If anyone out there, if you could stop tweeting Brad Garrett and fix my IMDb page, that would be great. Thank you.
We have the same issue in poker with, there's two David Peters.
Right.
Imagine your name is John Smith and you're trying to get your tournament result.
Yeah, exactly.
On your
and
page.
We know John Smith was a crusher.
Exactly, the heads up crusher. Okay, so talking about movies you actually are involved with, that brings me to the upcoming movie called The Card Counter, which you were hired as the poker consultant for. Tell me about how you got involved in that project.
My friend Lauren is a movie producer, and she has, and for her last film, she flew me out to Japan, and I got to hang out with the cast of the movie she was shooting out there for like 10 days or something, which was awesome. And for this second movie, she read a script, written and to be directed by a guy named Paul Schrader, who is a legend in Hollywood.
Yes.
He wrote Taxi Driver. He wrote Raging Bull. He wrote The Last Temptation of Christ. He has some other movies that are like for real film buffs, stuff like Mishima and not Nashville, Hardcore. And so my friend was like, would you mind reading this script and telling me what you think? And I wrote like 6 pages of notes saying there was poker in it. Did I leave that part out? There's a lot of poker in this script. I left that part out. I'm not a very good storyteller. I'm not Paul Schrader, I'll tell you that much. So there's a lot of
reason she gave you this script.
The reason is because a lot of it takes place in casinos, and the main character plays a lot of poker in the movie. And so I read it, and I was like, nobody would say this. This is like very archaic. This doesn't really happen. This isn't a thing. And I wrote like 6 pages of notes, assuming that at some point when she was like having their pre-production meetings with the director, she would address them with him. She actually just clicks forward and sends my notes directly to the legend Paul Schrader. I have no idea this has happened. I don't find out anything until she forwards his response to me, which is, we got to have this guy on set.
Awesome.
So, but then I, with horror, scrolled down to see what he was replying to, and it was like every harsh note. I was like, this is idiotic. This doesn't add up. There's 9 cards on the board in this hand. And so it was very cool. I got hired. I got to fly to New York City to talk poker with Oscar Isaac for a day. He welcomed me into his home, and we just sort of played a little poker, played a little online poker. Talked about some things in the script, how I think they should be played. But I was like, obviously every time I had a conversation like this, I was like, look, this is your story, your movie, but I'm going to tell you this is what I think could be more authentic than what's written here. And at no point did anyone ever get mad at me or tell me that, like, occasionally someone would be like, no, we're going to do it this way. And I was like, cool, no problem. I've done my job. I've told you what I think it should be. But this is ultimately your story and ultimately your movie, obviously. So, and I would say they listen to me on almost everything. And I've seen the movie. It's really good. And I'm proud of the poker that's in it.
That's awesome. Yeah, speaking of Taxi Driver and Raging Bull, Oscar Isaac to me is kind of like a young De Niro in that he has that same sort of facial presence with And it seems like the way he's chosen, based on the preview of the movie, to play this poker player / blackjack player is more stoic, meticulous, reserved. I'm wondering if you had a conversation with him about the style of poker player he was going to portray, or if you gave him the names of poker players to maybe look up and model his demeanor after.
I couldn't say for sure. We didn't really have that conversation. If I had to guess where it comes from, I think it's, he's basing the guy's poker demeanor on what we know about the character, right? Mm-hmm. So, as you know, everything you do at the table conveys information, right? You ever heard that?
I've heard it before. It sounds familiar.
And so I think he just sort of reversed that and thought to himself, what would this character, who is an Iraq war veteran and also went to spend some time in military prison. So I think he was sort of basing the stoicism of his poker demeanor on that. And you'll see that, I don't want to give away too much away, obviously, not even story-wise, but thematically, there are some themes in this movie that really, really somehow Paul, despite not really being a poker player, figured out like a way to tie this character's sort of demeanor to life as a tournament grinder. And it's really interesting. And I didn't even pick up on it until like we were shooting it. And I was like, oh, that's what this is. So I'm really excited for people to see it, and I hope they see what I see.
Interesting. Yeah, it could always go either way with a poker movie. I am personally of the opinion that we should just get as much poker content out there as possible. Good, bad, ugly, I don't care. You know, Doyle Brunson was the poker consultant for Lucky You. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes they don't listen, sometimes they do, and correct. The best we can hope for as a poker community is that we are represented realistically.
These guys, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised with how little there is in here, that, especially compared to like a Lucky or something like that. But I just want to temper people and say that it's not a poker movie, right? There's a lot of poker in it. It's just like, I wouldn't expect that the resolution of the story doesn't really have a lot to do with what happens at the table.
Right.
That makes sense.
There's no James Bond making a royal flush moment.
There may or may not be those moments, but why the reason we're watching the movie isn't to see whether or not he wins a bracelet. I'll say that.
Got it. So what was the coolest experience about? I mean, obviously meeting Oscar Isaac must have been pretty cool, but
that was cool. There was a really fun day on set where, first of all, this was an incredibly traumatic and stressful experience for me. They had 28 poker tables with 28 dealers and extras at all of them, and only one person in the room had ever dealt poker before.
Oh, man.
Even on the one table day, every time they do the scene, I have to reset all the chips. I have to reset all the cards. I have to make sure the dealer knows what to do again, because again, they weren't real dealers.
I just assumed you were doing script doctoring here. I didn't understand. Okay, so you're literally on the set fixing.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And making sure I'm like, sorry, man, like you can't play. Please don't play with your chips. Like you gotta keep them where they're at for right now. And giving, just slight little notes to the actors, like how to fold, how to, one guy, freaks out and pushes his chair back from the table. And I'm just like, okay, like throw your cards at the dealer. That kind of stuff. Like it was a very cool experience. All of that was incredibly stressful though. To have that much responsibility and to like in that 28 dealer shot, they shot it and Paul said, that's a wrap, moving on. And I noticed a huge mistake in it. And it was this huge sweeping crane shot featuring 300 extras, and it was very complicated. And I was like, up to you guys, but there's a glaring poker error in this shot. Can we please do it again? And they were like, yep, no problem. But asking that question was fucking terrifying. Sorry, to go back to your question of...
No, but that's what the poker community will notice, right? Whatever error it was, whether, dealer
Well, I can
dealing
tell you what it
backwards.
was. There was a dealer who was just dealing to random people instead of clockwise.
Oh, okay. I thought it was going to be counterclockwise. Okay, so just...
No, it was like bing, bong, bing, bing. It was like all over the place. And then the funny part was when I had them do it again, they were like, well, who was it? And now I can't tell because I'm watching from like an overhead angle. And I'm walking around the room like, which one of you is dealing all crazy? Which one of you is dealing all crazy? And nobody wants to say it was them. And this lady looks at me. I'm like, were you the one that was dealing all crazy? And she's like, no. And I go, okay. And I look to the table next to her. And the dealer at that table goes, it was her. So luckily she had seen it. And I was like, look, you're not in trouble. I just need you to do it like this.
Like a clock.
Yeah. And so and just to make it easy, I was like, everyone just start dealing in the one seat. Like, it's plausible. It's plausible. Everyone start dealing in the one seat. So,
yeah, they deal different speeds anyway, so it'll look different on camera.
Exactly. So that was like a terrifying, stressful day. But a fun day was in between takes. And when we were done even shooting the poker scene, Oscar fell in love with like 2-4 limit. And so he and I sat and played 2-4 limit for like 6-7 hours. And they'd be like, Oscar, ready for you. He would like run off, shoot the scene, and then come right back as soon as they yelled cut. And eventually, we're in Biloxi, Mississippi, and eventually it took forever, right? It's like me and Oscar, like 6 other people. It's like a full table. It took someone like 3 hours to be like, are you famous? And
really?
Yeah. And then Oscar's really humble, but I think this is fucking hilarious. So I'm having fun with it. I'm like, yeah, you ever seen Star Wars? And this black lady looks at me from the other end of the table and she goes, I don't like those movies. And I was like, that's so funny. And like Oscar was like, it's okay. You don't have to like it. And I was like, that. And I rattled off a few more of the movies he'd been in. Like, it's Mississippi. Like, no one's seen like Ex Machina at the 2-4 limit table.
A Most Violent Year, or
right, or like
Inside Llewyn Davis.
Exactly. So, and so that was a really funny moment.
Yeah, if they don't know Poe Dameron, they're not gonna get it. I don't think.
Exactly. I started with fucking Star Wars. Like, what are you going to do?
That's hilarious. All right. You've met lots of celebrities over the years. Have you ever actually been starstruck?
Yeah, there had to be someone I was really dumb. I was pretty starstruck playing next to John Hamm on Poker Night Live, especially because he's so charming that it's really easy just to like, I get what women see about him. Like, I would have gone home. Like, he is just so charming and handsome and, like, gets every joke and gets every reference. And that I feel like I was a little intimidated by him.
Yeah, that's what really annoys me about John Hamm is that he's so damn funny as well.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
because you don't see it on Mad Men. Mad Men, he's just selling us cameras or whatever it is.
Right, but you would buy them. Like, you're like,
of course I would.
I'd fucking
but
buy
then,
that.
I saw him in, was it 30 Rock, where he played, like, the idiot boyfriend?
Yeah.
And he was so hilarious, and you see him on all these comedies, and you're like, oh,
Reverend
damn.
Richard Wayne, Gary Wayne, he plays himself.
Oh, my God. Kimmy Schmidt.
Yeah, the Between Two Ferns movies. He, like, pokes fun at the fact that he's been on every TV show. Yeah, he was pretty intimidating. I'm wondering if I just starstruck...
Or who would do it to you? Is there anybody on your bucket list that you'd love to meet?
I would imagine I'd be pretty tongue-tied around Leonardo DiCaprio.
Really?
Yeah, I think, like, there's certain guys that are just, like, reclusive, right? Like, that are just, like, private guys that, like, people don't know that much about. I might be, like, intimidated a little bit by, like, a Nicolas Cage.
Oh, my wife is a server here in Vegas and served him many times, and he's very pleasant and tips well.
That's good.
He's just as neurotic as you'd think.
It's also, context is everything too, right? Like in general, it's awkward for me to meet celebrities. I'd say 80% of the time it's for work reasons, right? So I just want to leave them alone and not overstep and not like try to razzle dazzle them.
Right.
Even though I want to, right? That's like my instinct is be like, I want to fucking make John Hamm remember me. So I don't do that when I'm working. And then like maybe the other 20% of the time I meet them as like social reasons. And usually then I'm like, if I want to like turn it on a little bit more, I can be myself, be myself and not, I'm not as reserved as I would be otherwise. And occasionally friendships do form.
I'm surprised you said Leo and not like a comedy guy, like a...
Seinfeld would probably be intimidating to me. Actually, now that you mention it, that's a great shout, Julio. Seinfeld, I'd probably be too scared to say anything.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe Seinfeld or like a Mel Brooks or something like that.
Because I always feel like everyone must try to make him laugh, right? He's probably so sick of that. So I would just specifically not try. I'd be like, hello. I would treat him like the soup Nazi. I'd be like, good set tonight. Thank you. Step to the side.
Exactly. Don't make eye contact.
Exactly.
Has your nickname always been Stapes? Or is there a nickname you'd rather have?
I actually did not like Stapes for the longest time. People call me Stapes on and off throughout the years, and it never really stuck because I never really took to it. But then when this fucking guy named Keegan Michael Key on Mad TV started calling me Joey Stapes, I was like, oh, it turns out I like Stapes.
Yeah.
Turns out Stapes is a good nickname for me. And he made me like it, and so I sort of embraced it in poker for that reason. And then I realized, oh, wait, having an identity is good.
Right.
Having people know who you are is good. Like having people want to call you a nickname is good. So it just took a minute. It had to grow on me.
We got some rapid fire questions here to wrap things up.
Okay, buddy.
We already started a few questions ago, but I forgot to mention it. How's your voice doing? You had surgery this year, right?
Thank you for asking. Yes, I did. The surgery went really well and cleared up what was in there. And my voice is, it's the second time I've had that surgery, and my voice is better than it was even after the first time. So thank you for asking.
Can you get more gravelly? Are you approaching Will Arnett territory?
I think with every ensuing surgery, if this is something that recurs, I'm going to probably get deeper. But that's also a thing, like you'll hear Howard Stern talk about this, his radio voice, his voice got deeper over the years. My voice is almost embarrassingly high in the big game episodes compared to where it is now. And that's, I think, a little bit from, obviously the surgeries, but I think it's mostly just from use and wear and tear and just developing that broadcaster voice that I have now.
Let's see here. Do you have a moment that sticks out? What was your most embarrassing moment in poker or poker broadcasting?
An embarrassing moment in poker is I definitely congratulated someone in cashing a super high roller that had bubbled. That was Mike Watson. That was pretty embarrassing.
Mike Watson is going to be on this show very shortly, and
I love Mike Watson. Yeah, that was really awkward. There was an awkward. It's embarrassing. There's there was one time we were shooting a link, welcome to the EPT in London, and they used to have to do it while all the dealers were in the room sitting at the table. So my boss would be like, "Quiet on the set, everyone, quiet." And then we would do our link, and for some reason, I couldn't get this one. And I flubbed it, and I flubbed it, and I flubbed it, and I flubbed it, and now I'm, panicking. And every dealer in the room is just sitting there staring at us. We're talking 40, 50 dealers. And I finally get one out. I start thinking in my head, what if you never get this?
Oh, God.
What if you can literally never get this right? And now I'm sweating, and I'm sick to my stomach. And I finally get one out, and my boss is like, okay, you did it. Do you want to do it again? Because it was like I looked like I was about to vomit the entire time. And I was like, yes, please, thank you. And then I got it on that time. But that was pretty embarrassing. That that I don't really think about that stuff anymore. Something happened to, like, maybe it's from stand-up helping or whatever, but like now I just own it. I'm like, yeah, no problem. We got this. Let's go. Like, it's just, I was so nervous for so many years, so many more years probably than I should have. Like, I only just stopped being nervous doing this job, like in the last 2 years, I'd say.
Yeah, that reminded me of like a time we were on the set for the NBC National Heads Up Poker Championship, and I can't remember who the host was at the time, but she was doing the intro to the show. So everybody was just sitting quietly waiting. All the players were at the table. And it must have taken 15 takes. And then finally she nails it on 16, and somebody in the background screws it up. And like everyone in the room groaned at the same time. And I thought she wanted to die. But yeah, it's just one of those spots, you got to keep your head down and power through.
Yeah, I mean, you learn a lot about yourself in those situations.
So when I took this job, I thought I'm going to be around these top players so much and watching and analyzing their game. It's just going to come to me through osmosis. And then I realized it did to a certain point, and then I plateaued. How is your game, having been around all of these guys for years and seen it at the highest levels?
I would say that my game is infinitely better than it was when I started in poker, or even where I was at in poker in, let's say, 2010 or 2013. Infinitely better, but it is still terrible. I don't know what to say. Like, when I play in actual events, my track record's very good. It's probably just variance, but I will also say that variance is weird because throughout the pandemic, I would play 1 to 2 tables sit and goes a week on various Zoom poker games, and I haven't won any of them since May 2020.
Oh, that is quite a Negreanu-sized dry spell there.
Yeah, and I haven't cashed in any of them since January of this year. So I am currently in a downswing. Like, I might be the worst person who plays in all those games, like the worst player, but even then I should probably win it occasionally in a 2-player sit and go. So I don't just say, like, I guess I'm the worst poker player in any of the games I play. So even though I feel like I'm a better poker player, I'm still terrible.
But it's a weird dynamic, right? Because you're in the booth and you're talking with another expert and you're breaking down these GTO ranges, and it makes sense in the moment, and you can totally wrap your head around it. And then if you're like me, you sit down at the table and that all goes out the window. I'm not thinking about any of that.
It doesn't go out the window for me, but also I don't come to the answers as easily as the people who I'm sitting in the booth with do. I can sometimes come to the answers, but another thing I realize is that, like, against the players I'm playing against, that doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And I'm not even saying they're that bad. Like, it's just, unless you're playing against a top level player, like, you can just play fairly straightforward poker and have a fairly good understanding of, like, how to read a person's body language, especially if we're talking live poker. Your decisions, my decisions, especially in the structure I play too, like, there's just no, I don't think the game has to be thought about on that level to enjoy it and to be moderately successful at it.
For sure, because otherwise I wouldn't be playing.
Right, exactly.
What was your worst job before poker?
I worked at the United States Post Office for 2 weeks, and even though I think at the time I was making $17 an hour, and this was like in 2002, 2001, and it was the most mind-numbing. I just was sick to my stomach all day watching the clock crawling by every single day, and it's the first time I ever quit a job. I went to my boss. My dad had got me the job. He had worked at the post office for 30 years, doing a different thing, but had done that job at one point though. And I went to my boss and I was like, "Hey, I'm really sorry. I want to put in my 2 weeks notice." And I go, "Look, I know 2 weeks notice is like standard, but if there's any way it could be any shorter, I would really appreciate it." And he was like, "When do you want to go?" And I was like, "Right now." And he said, "No problem. Get out of here." And it was maybe one of the happiest moments of my life was quitting that job. Like the thought of working there another 2 weeks like was sickening to me. And it gave me a better appreciation for what my dad had gone through to provide for a family.
Right.
So it was a double lesson there that day.
Yeah, it also tells you what you don't want out of your career.
Correct. I knew that wasn't gonna be for me. Just a job.
Where is the weirdest place you've ever played poker for money or cards for money?
Let's see. That's not that weird. I don't know, man. I don't know if I have a good answer for this, only because I'm not one of those people that like needs to play poker. I've
never got into a airplane Chinese game with Barry Greenstein or something?
No, I mean, look, I've played poker I've played poker at Josh Molina's house. Josh has had me over to his home to play poker, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's cool.
I played poker at Jerry Cantrell's house. That's a pretty fun when that happens. I played poker at Hank Azaria's house a few times when he lived in Los Angeles. So those are some neat places I played poker. I wouldn't say they're like that weird necessarily, but
well, they're interesting to me. I mean,
right.
So you've made the celebrity home game rounds.
Yes. Yeah. And probably would have had more cool stories had COVID not happened, because my home game was getting kind of cool. Norm was coming to my home game and Jen Tilly was coming to my home game. I mean, the home game that I do on Zoom right now has been really cool over quarantine. I've been able to make friends with David Allen Greer and Michael Cera and this really funny comedy producer named Kim Caramelli, and her husband Vinny, who's also hilarious. And I made tons of great friends during quarantine. Another game during quarantine full of like writers and directors. There's a woman named Lauren Wolkstein that I play with who's directing a bunch of episodes of Why the Last Man, about to come out on Hulu. Like I've had made some really amazing friendships with some very interesting and successful people over the last year. That's another, poker saved a lot of people. Saving maybe putting a little much, but helped a lot of people over the last year, myself included. So I'm very grateful for that, but more importantly, just for the fact that Paul Schrader played with us for a while because, everyone was kind of lonely and wanted interaction, and poker is just a great way to do it.
Yeah, it's interesting how poker has kind of stayed in Hollywood. Obviously, there was the heyday at the height of the poker boom, when you had Celebrity Poker Showdown on TV and stuff.
Created by Josh Molina.
But, now, they're still playing. John Hamm I saw playing in a celebrity event. You got, what's his name? The Avenger, Don Cheadle, was playing a ton of poker.
Don Cheadle, yeah. Don has played in our home game once before. There's still like a pretty big Hollywood home game contingent, and I'm just going to drop a little hint here, Julio. I also, in the last 6 months of quarantine, have been writing a comic book. And the comic book revolves around the world of the Hollywood home game. I'm not on a Molly's Game level, but on a level of, just regular working class Hollywood people, kind of all like a lot of deals happen at the poker table.
Right.
Connections get made. Like you're like, oh, I have to audition someone. Like I got a Pepsi commercial from playing in a poker game.
Sexy and I know it.
Yeah, like that's just the kind of things that happen. Like I met a director and he was like, I think you'd be good for this Pepsi spot, and he put me in it. I mean, we had known each other and been friends for a while, but he had that idea while I was hanging out with him at a poker table. And there's a whole world where this happens in Hollywood. Of people of all sorts of various levels, and it's kind of fun to watch. So I wrote a comic book, a comedy adventure that takes place in that sort of world, and we just finished our first draft. So I think probably by Christmas it'll be out, though.
Awesome! I can't wait to read that. And everyone should go.
I'm definitely gonna I feel like I haven't really like engaged people ever. I've never been like, hey, I really need y'all to do this. As far as like social media or like just the small amount of fan base I have. And I'm going to be calling in those favors soon, I think.
Yeah, might as well. Might as well, man. I don't think you'll need to, though. I think people will be excited for that.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, let's see. Got a few more here before I let you go. What was your largest non-poker wager?
My largest non-poker wager. I don't really bet much else. I mean, like, I've probably degened out and like played a $300 hand of Ultimate Texas Hold'em before or something like that. But that's probably as big as it gets.
No prop bets?
Well, there was the famous prop bet I was a part of that kind of put me on the map in poker, which was the tan bet. That was for $2,000, but that was more or less a free roll because I was never going to not do it. So I didn't really bet that. What other prop bets have I ever done?
For the listeners who don't know, can you recap that one real quick?
Oh, sure. I was just, I think it was probably Julio's first year at the World Series. And
06.
Yeah, 06. And I was didn't make any money. Not zero money, but certainly not enough. And a couple of poker players, a guy named Brian Lemke and John Caldwell, who was the founder of Poker News. And can I say that on Card Player? Shit, bleep it. And Joe Seebach and Gavin Smith all put up $500 a piece for me to get 2 spray tans a day for a week. I, knowing that this was getting me attention, actually ended up doing 2 spray tans a day for 10 days because it was like, it kind of put me on the map. People were noticing me. Everyone was calling me Tan Guy. Norman Chad talked to me. Jeffrey Pollack talked to me. Everyone knew it was going on. Yeah, and then all of a sudden people knew who I was. So it was like a bit of a PR stunt that just started off with me just needing like $2,000 to get me through the summer in Vegas and turned into like one of the best PR moves I ever made.
Tan Guy. That's funny. Who is your celebrity doppelganger, or have people told you look like somebody?
Yeah, man. Everyone says I look like Charlie Day.
Mm-hmm.
We have a similar sense of humor, I'd say, too, probably. Similar sort of frenetic energy, although he's a little bit higher than I am.
That's pretty good.
Have
you ever seen him at an audition and went like, oh, they're just casting a type?
No, but I would be an honor for me to even be in the same auditions as him. Dude, I don't get auditions. I don't, I'm like one of those, I'm available, I'm here, but I don't have the energy to put into the whole audition circuit. Like I'm quite busy doing stuff for PokerStars, so things have to fall right in my lap most of the time for me to even audition. You
listening, Jordan? It has to fall in his lap.
Yeah, Mr. Peele, as I'll call you henceforward.
He'll definitely listen now.
Can he be?
What is your most prized possession?
My most prized possession. All right, can I tell you something in the future? Don't let people say their phone, right?
I mean, if that's an answer, that'd be terrible.
I mean, that is my most prized possession. It is my whole world. It's my whole life. It's the first thing.
No, that might
I
be
want
your
to see every when I wake up in the morning.
That's the most important thing in your life, maybe. It's tied to the outside world. But you can replace that in about an hour.
I think my most prized possession, that's a good point, Julio. All right, fine, you win. My most prized possession is probably my car, and that is, it's not as douchey as it sounds, because the car, Julio, if you were a Two Jacks the Hole listener, it's the same car.
No.
Yeah, the car is 13 years old at this point.
Oh.
And when I was a young man and hosting a podcast, they decided they were going to release something called the Dodge Challenger in 2008, a first edition. And I went through hell to get it. And I ended up somehow manifesting this fucking car, even though I had no business getting it. I literally won the lottery for the last $5,000 I needed for a down payment. And because I lived in London and then lived in New York, New Jersey, I did not drive it for like 4 years. And the last 2 years have been work from home. So my 13-year-old Dodge Challenger has 65,000 miles on it.
Wow.
So that's probably my most prized possession. I love that car very much. I got a lot of good memories of that car. I still think it looks cool. I still like driving it. So that's probably what it is. Sorry, I should have said my parents. Shit.
It didn't have to get sentimental. I like that guy. It's a symbol of the fact that you made it.
Yeah, that's a good. Hey, thank you. Thank you for that, Julio.
Yeah. I do remember the ordeal with that car, and like you had to order it or something.
Yeah, I ordered it. Took them months to come in. I had to rent a car. They jacked the price up on me when I went in to buy it. They tried to keep my deposit. It was a whole thing.
What would you pick if you could name the entertainment for the Super Bowl halftime show?
Ooh.
Doesn't have to be music.
No, I like it being music, but you know what they used to do? They don't do anymore is a medley, right? Like I'd love it to be like fucking Aerosmith's like Walk This Way, then Run DMC comes out, right? And then fucking Gorillaz comes out, and then it's like the White Stripes are out there, and then like fucking Lady Gaga takes over for them. Like I like that, and they
you
can
want
do
it to be a mashup.
Yeah, I want it to be like a lot of genres coming together. Who's that black girl, the country singer? Like maybe she's not country, but she wails on guitar. She's amazing. Throw her in the mix. You know what I mean? Like. And get different people from like different sources of genres on the stage. Get Chris Stapleton out there, get my cousin Chris out there. That kind of thing. I just
you're not even the most famous Stapleton.
No, not even close. It's the Super Bowl, man. Like pull out all the stops. Like I actually didn't even mind what's his name, the bloody face guy. The Weeknd.
The Weeknd, yeah.
I thought it was fine. Like it was a little weird. I thought it was interesting, but like, man, throw some more acts out there. It's like the Weeknd can't hold up the whole Super Bowl halftime show. The very few acts can.
Yeah, you do kind of need like an opener, middle act, and headliner that all kind of work together.
Right? What if you were a genie and I just blew my chance to do comedy at the Super Bowl? I was like, Joe Stapleton doing a tight 7.
You're going to be so pissed when next year's Super Bowl is that exact lineup you said.
I fucking should have put the other thing into the universe.
I mean, I don't know if you want to do comedy to a stadium full of people either. That's kind of weird.
I mean, if they were there for comedy, yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
Super Bowl,
a stadium full of football fans.
Yeah, they're just going to throw batteries at me like the fucking opposing team at Giant Stadium.
Right. All right. What was the most entertaining thing you watched, read, or listened to during quarantine?
It's probably, I think a lot of people did this, but my girlfriend had seen like a smattering of the Marvel movies and we just started over from the beginning. And that was pretty cool to get to do. Probably would never have time in my life otherwise to rewatch 26 movies as it were.
And you get to see her reaction because you know what's coming.
Yes,
all the cool moments.
Exactly. Yes. And seeing her like being just like sort of on board for it and then get really into it was really cool to see too. I've got to rewatch a whole bunch of my favorite shows that, like I said, I might not have ever gotten a chance to go back to. We went and watched all of The Shield, which is my all-time favorite drama. We did
Chickless.
Yeah, Chickless, incredible. Like one of the best endings ever for a TV show. We did Justified, which is in my top 3. And right now we're doing Deadwood, which is probably in my top 3 also. It could be number 1. So
that show doesn't have a satisfying ending though.
It doesn't. And that show, believe it or not, haunts me. Like I know there's a movie now, which I haven't seen yet. I'm waiting to the end of all this. I didn't realize that it didn't have a satisfying ending because it didn't have an ending, right? If you hear Timothy Olyphant talk about it, he actually like bought a house and then they didn't bring the show back. And that's why he had to take Hitman. Like the terrible Hitman movie. And so they didn't know it was being canceled either. So that's why, but I remember when that happened, when I got to the end of it, I remember like thinking about those characters and like wondering about them and being like, are they stuck in limbo right now? Are they just like waiting for a resolution to their story? And that like stayed with me for a long time.
I actually met somebody who was on that show at Caesar's Palace in a poker tournament. A guy named Keone Young.
Yeah, Keone. We have the same agent. He plays Mr. Wu, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Keone plays poker. Calamity Jane plays poker, and I'm so sorry I don't remember her name because I played with her at Jerry Cantrell's house. And Jerry, I think has both been on Deadwood and made a cameo in the movie.
Wow, that's crazy. That's a small world. There you go. All right. Let's see. I think. Oh, headphones on at the table, yes or no?
I don't care.
And if you are wearing them, what are you listening to?
I don't wear them. Sorry. I don't wear them. I don't care if other people wear them. I don't wear them because half the fun of poker is it's a social game and I'm there and I want to interact with people. And I also think, you're more likely to make mistakes and miss information if you're dulling one of your senses. So, although I will drink at the table, so what the fuck do I know?
There you go. What movie quotes do you use on a regular basis?
What movie quotes do I use on a regular basis? They're mostly from Wet Hot American Summer.
There you go. There's a lot in that movie.
We got to get that tape. I'm going to need that back right now. I'm going to need that back. Oh, we quote, what I love quoting is the movie Made. It's like the unofficial sequel to Swingers. Like it's not.
Oh, really Vince Vaughn and Jon Favreau.
Yeah, and Vince Vaughn's got some amazing. Like, you get 1,500 too. Who am I dropping this off to? Who gets this 1,500? I don't know. We quote weird shit. I'm not like a big Anchorman quoting.
No, those are the ones you use in everyday conversation. You know what I mean? The one I always mention is whenever somebody's asking me about something that I have to do, I'll say, "I'm right on top of that, Rose." And no one knows what that's from, but that's literally from Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
Nice.
And
TV rots your brains.
Anyway, we end the podcast the same way every time with a question from the random question generator.
Uh-oh.
You ready?
Is this going to be total gibberish?
No, the words will make sense.
Okay.
The question is random. That'd be funny, though.
It's like toast banana sometimes. Yes or no?
It's just a Mad Lib with a question mark at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, this one's kind of pokerish. Okay, if you had a HUD or heads-up display that showed 3 stats about any person you looked at, what 3 stats would you want it to show?
I would want it to show their hunger level, their amusement level, and then how down they would be to have a threesome with me and my girlfriend. Those are really the only 3 measures I need of anybody. The third one's probably the most important.
If you get high levels on all 3,
yeah, because I'm a great
Which problem do you take care of first?
Oh, we throw some steaks on the grill for sure. You got to make sure, but you can't overfeed in that situation. Yeah, no, if I could have a meter for that third thing and not just have to awkwardly ask everyone, that would be great.
It would definitely save some embarrassing conversations, I'm sure. Joe, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing the stories.
Julio, thank you for having me. It's great talking to you, buddy.
That's it. That's the show. Thank you once again to Joe. You can listen to more of him on the Poker in the Ears podcast he does with James Hartigan, or check him out on the upcoming WCOOP series for PokerStars. And of course, don't forget about The Card Counter, which opens September 10th in a theater near you. Follow Joe on Twitter at Stapes. Follow us at Card Player Media. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. Better yet, why don't you scroll down your podcast app and leave us a 5-star rating and review. Let us know you did so with an email to pokerstories@cardplayer.com, and we'll hook you up with a free digital subscription to Card Player Magazine. Thanks for listening.